We continue our meditation series in Hinduism. Oneness is not a peripheral idea. It is a central insight, as articulated in the Upanishads and later in the Vedant literature. Vedant means the end of the Vedas, or ultimate knowledge, where the deepest self, or Atman, is identical to the ultimate reality, or Brahman. Today we have a very special guest speaker, Dr. Glen Kezwer, who is joining us from India, the Himalayas. He is a brilliant scientist, an accomplished clarinetist, but above all, a master meditator and an expert on the eternal teachings of Vedant and the Sanātana Dharma, or Sanskrit for the eternal way. Born and raised in Toronto, soon after receiving his doctorate in physics from York University's Center for Research in Experimental Space Science, Dr. Kezwer and his wife, Arlene, met their guru, Swami Shyam, and moved to India. So for almost 50 years, he has devoted his life to practicing and carrying out research in the science of meditation and its concomitant philosophy. He has written many articles on science, meditation, and spirituality, and delivered lectures in India, the United States, Canada, and Europe, as well as online. So we're very honored to have Dr. Kezwer with us. I will turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Bandy. And since I'm coming to you from India, where, by the way, it's almost 11 o'clock at night, so I have my coffee, I'll start off with the traditional way of greeting people in India, which goes like this: Namaste. So, namaste to you all, and thank you very much for joining tonight or this afternoon. Now, namaste normally means I honor you. It's a Sanskrit word. And to me, that's a very beautiful meaning, but I think there's a much deeper meaning which relates really to the Hinduism from which it comes in its roots. So I'm taking a bit, if there's any Sanskrit grammarians out there, I apologize for a bit of grammatical sleight of hand, but I'm going to break it down into three words: na, ma, and te. Not me and not you, but the highest. So when you put your two hands together, that symbolically represents the two people greeting each other coming together. But it's not me greeting you, it's the two of us joining in one eternal spirit, which we both are. And symbolically, our fingers point towards the highest. And I love that meaning. And so namaste to all of you. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I keep saying that. I should just say today, wherever you happen to be. Well, the first thing, of course, I want to thank Bandy. I had a conversation with Bandy a couple of days ago on Zoom. So I said to Bandy, "Where are you?" She said, "Well, I'm in Washington, D.C., but tomorrow I'm going to be in Albany, New York. And then the next day I'm going to be in Pittsburgh." And I said, "Well, you won't have time to organize this meeting. I bet Bandy, you're so busy, but you do such a great job, and thanks for taking the time to do this. But more importantly, thank you for your friendship. We've known each other about a year, and I think on that first meeting, we recognized that being, which I was just talking about, in each of us, and we've been good friends ever since. And do you know if Robert's here tonight? Can you see him,
Robert?
Bandy? Robert, yeah, Purushottam. Do you know if he's here?
Yes, he's here.
Oh, okay. He's the only other person I know. He must be listening. I just want to give a shout out to Robert for decades of close friendship and many years of being together on what I call a spiritual voyage. So I can't see you, Robert, but thank you for coming also. I'm going to start off with a disclaimer. And it's rather an obvious thing, but I think it bears saying. And that is, whatever I tell you is the result of my many years of research, meditation, talking to people, studying all the Indian scriptures, the Gita, Patanjali Yoga Darshan, Yoga Vasishta, and so on. And they're entirely my findings. And obviously, it's obvious I can't give you anything else or offer anything else, but just so you'll be clear, this is what I've gleaned. And of course, it's up to you. You're all individuals to take or not take what suits you. And so, with that disclaimer, I'm going to start off in maybe a rather unconventional way. I tested this with Bandy the other day. I want to show you 3 pictures. So, Bandy, just let me know. Can you see that one?
Yes.
Okay. That is me with my mother when I was 1 year old. Now, the second one. Yeah. Can you see that? That's me when I was 22. Rather different. And is that, yeah, you can see that, eh? That's me when I was 76. Well, this was from yesterday.
Oh,
Now, I'm not showing you these pictures just so you can see how beautiful my mother was, although she obviously was. But the point I want to make is, did you notice me for all 3 photos? That's me at 1, that's me at 22, and that's me at 76. But physically, those 3 me's are completely different. You saw them. And I'm not a physiologist, but I think pretty much every cell of the body has disappeared between each of those photos. So physically, I'm not the same being at all that I call me. And yet, they're all me. They're all Glen Kezwer, married to Arlene, born in Toronto in 1949, etc., etc., etc. So now I'm doing a bit of hand waving here, but I think it's necessary in this field. This shows me that there must be some link, call it a being, call it reality, call it the truth. In Hindi, in Sanskrit, they call it Brahman, as you'd mentioned, or Atma, which isn't physical but links all of those 3 me's. And it transcends them all, and it's not a physical thing. It is something which transcends the physical, but which is really me. So the me's I was referring to the first 3 times, and this is me with a capital M. And that's what Hinduism, to me, is all about. Finding that truth within you. So, how do we do that? And what is that truth? Well, let me go back a little bit. I got my doctorate in upper atmospheric physics. It was called astronomy in 1978. And then in 1979, I met my guru, Swami Shyam. And of course, that was a life-changing event. And my wife, too, she's still here. We've been married about 55 years now. And she's also here in India with me. And it's sort of hard to put in words, but I knew somehow I was in the presence of a wise man right from the beginning. So I thought, let me ask him a question. And we refer to him as Swamiji. So I said, Swamiji. And of course, as you know, the guru is a very, very important element in Hinduism. A friend of mine just published a book called The Guru in the Upanishads, where she goes through an entire history of gurus and the guru tradition as related in the Upanishads. So I met my guru. I had no idea what the word meant at the time, but I thought, let me ask him a question. I said, Swamiji, my life up to this point is very good. I have a wonderful marriage. We've been married 7 years. Money in the bank. We had taken a year off just to travel. No professional ties or anything. We were just free to travel. And when I went back to the States after traveling, I had a good position waiting for me, I think so many years ago, at the University of Colorado in the physics department in, where is that? In Boulder. But I said, Swamiji, I think there's some element missing in my life. What could that be? And he said, you're missing you. And remember, is he speaking Greek? I mean, I understand the words, but what does that mean? You're missing you. Here I am. So I asked only one more question that first meeting. I said, how do I find that me that I'm missing? And he once again answered just 3 words, close your eyes, which means meditate. And I could stop my talk right now because the rest is history, but of course I won't because I'm really enjoying talking to you all. So where did we go from there? Well, if I'm going to find that you, that me which I'm missing, I have to have some technique or something to go beyond the me. And the work of meditation is basically the work on the mind. Now, a lot of you are psychiatrists, I think, and health professionals, so you know a lot more about the science of the mind than I do. But once again, as I said, I'm just telling you what I found. And the mind is the source of everything. It's it's the instrument we use to interpret the world and to become happy or unhappy. And so I'm going to use a very facile example now, but I think it makes a good point. I'm a big baseball fan. I don't know how many of you are or aren't, but I'm a big fan of the Toronto Blue Jays. And if you're a fan, you know that they were in the World Series last year and lost right at the end. I see, Richard, you're in California, so maybe you're a Dodgers fan, but anyway. So they lost to the Dodgers. I was quite unhappy, and I have a friend in LA who was thrilled. And all the Toronto fans were unhappy, and the LA fans were happy. But look, there's only one event happening. We all saw the same baseball game. So what creates our happiness or unhappiness? Not the game, not the world itself, but how we interpret it with the mind. To me, that's the most important thing. And so I like to think with regards to the mind, you are the master, not the other way around. Swami Shyam's first book was called Mastermind, which means you can be the master of your mind. Well, how do you do that? I'm a scientist, and I still do have a great faith and belief in the scientific method. And that's based on observation. So a revolutionary thought or understanding I came to when I first met Swamiji was that you can watch your own mind from a transcended, a higher perspective, whatever word you want to use, but you have that ability. And I remember thinking, I can watch my own mind? And thinking, Swamiji, can I stay here for a while? That was like 45 years ago, so yes, I did. I mean, of course, not all the time, but you know, he is my guru. He passed away, what year were we? 9 years ago. But according to his guidance and what I've understood, I can watch my own mind from a different perspective, which is the Brahm. It's the Atma that we were talking about. That Brahm, according to Hinduism, is never born. It never dies. It is immortal, blissful. It's just eternal peace. And you might find this statement rather enigmatic, but my understanding of the spiritual path, spiritual voyage, can be summed up in one sentence. I'm going to keep you in suspense, so I have a drink of water. You were born to know you were not born. I'll say it again. You were born to know you were not born. Now, that may make total sense to you. You might understand it perfectly. You might think, what does that mean? I have no idea, no understanding, or anywhere in between. But I will certainly explain what I mean as we go through this talk. But I'll give you a little bit of a first hint at it. It depends on pronouns, believe it or not. You were born to know you were not born. The pronoun you is used twice. You were born has a small y, even though it starts a sentence. Forget the grammar. You were born, which means in this body, and I can prove it. I have a birth certificate from the province of Ontario. You can all prove you were born. You know where you were born. You know you exist. You can never deny your own existence. Nobody can. But to know you were not born, that second you has a capital Y. Because here I'm referring to the Brahm, the Atma, the inner being that is you, your essence. And you know that I'm going to lead to meditation. We'll do a session later on. Bandy said we could do one for 5 minutes, but that'll come a little later on. But that is how you contact that you, which you really are. So I want to introduce a term now, knower, K-N-O-W-E-R. In Sanskrit, it's gyata. Gyata means, gya has a root in Sanskrit of to know, and gyata is the knower. And the reason I use the term knower is because I just said you can watch your own mind. So let's call that being, that element that is watching the mind. Let's use the word knower. There are many other words we can use for it, but I'm going to start with knower because it is essentially that which knows what's going on in your mind. It's watching it. It's that revolutionary thing which I'd never thought of 50 years ago, which can watch what's going on in your mind. And interestingly, the corollary to that is that since it's watching from a separate or higher perspective, it is free from the thoughts that come in my mind. So the knower can say, I like that thought or I don't. So it's where you can control your happiness and unhappiness. For instance, back to the baseball, I could have just as easily said, my mind says, you're unhappy because the Blue Jays lost. I said, no, I like Los Angeles. It's a nice city. I'm happy they won. But if I don't have that freedom from being the knower, it's not possible to do that. So back to one of the fundamentals of Hinduism, and you talked about Buddhism in the first or the second session, right?
The second.
Yeah. Second, okay. They have the Four Noble Truths. Well, they have the same in Sanskrit. The terms in Sanskrit are Heya, Heya Hetu, Han, Hanopai. Hey, what is that which all humans want to remove or not experience in their life? Pain and suffering. Duk in Hindi. I love the sound of the word duk. I don't want pain. Heya Hetu. What's the cause? Very logical, very scientific. Well, the cause is in Hinduism is ignorance. Not knowing your true nature, not knowing the Atma, not knowing the Brahm, not knowing the knower, who you are. Han, what's the solution to that? Or no, when the opposite state, the state you attain, the solution is the fourth one, is a state of liberation, the freedom. And Hanopai, how do you get there? Well, they say Vivekyati, but that basically means knowing you are a free, immortal, undying being, and that's how you become free from all of that. And one of my favorite aspects of Hinduism is it's in universality. It sort of accepts not anything, but it's not confined to its own strict beliefs, but can accept from outside. Like I was at a school here in town, and I noticed they had too many pictures on the wall of saints, but they had Jesus, and right next to Jesus was Krishna. I thought, perfect. Why deny anything? So I want to tell a story. I'm going to keep you in suspense again. That happened to me many years ago. And it really speaks to the universal acceptance of Hinduism. I was invited to a place called Bind, which is in Madhya Pradesh in India. And I was invited to talk about meditation. It's way in the center of India. When I first got there, I think I was the first white person ever to go there. And I was giving a talk, and by then I had rudimentary Hindi, so I could do it all in Hindi, to a very large group. Now, if you've never been to India in the summer, it's hot. I can still picture sitting in that room, hundreds of fans going up above, blowing this hot air, and there must have been 500 people in there. And in those days, maybe they still do, the women sat on my right, and then the men on the left. And I'd finished my talk, and my host was standing at the microphone to the left, so I wasn't looking ahead of me, I was just looking to him to see what he would announce next. And I was sitting on a platform about 3 feet high with my legs crossed in the lotus position. And all of a sudden I felt a little sort of touch to my feet, as if I just sensed it, and I looked, and there's a woman. She's, got the little head thing on and wearing a sari, and she's touching my feet, which is a mark of respect and honor in India, very much so. But she's touching my feet. Now, I'm a foreigner. I can't speak their language. I'm not a Hindu. None of that mattered, because she knew that I and her and everybody were the same being, and that was her knowledge. And I was in a real quandary, because as I said, I only spoke rudimentary Hindi at the time, and what do I say to her in Hindi? And then I pictured my guru in, in a similar situation. He would say, Jite Raho. Jite Raho means may you live long. And I sort of passed my hand near her head without touching, and she smiled. I thought, oh, I've got it right. Well, I had to do it about 99 more times because there was this whole lineup of women. None of the men did it. And the same thing, Jite Raho, Jite Raho, and I was very touched. But just to show a contrast here, the very last person in line was a young girl. She must have been about 18. No sari, dressed in, the ripped jeans that were the style. And she spoke perfect English. She says to me, are you from Canada? She was very friendly. I said, yes. She said, can you get me into engineering school in Canada? And I said, I'm retired. And she gave me this look and walked out. So she didn't get a Jite Raho. But the point I'm making is, when you know that we're all one being, then there's no barriers. There's no different. When you look at I'm looking at, I don't know how many people are here, 40 on the screen, means 80 eyes. There's a light coming from all 80 eyes, and that's one light alone. Oneness, ekatva in Sanskrit, is a very basic term or principle in Hinduism. It means oneness. And you can't really describe it or understand it with the mind. That's why you have to transcend the mind in meditation. But we use many, many metaphors to describe it. So one of my favorite metaphors is, it's called the wave on the water. And to give the mind, the human mind, an idea of what oneness is. So I don't know how many of you like to body surf, but when I was a kid, I loved it. And you get out in the water, and my parents, we lived in Toronto, but we'd take vacations in Atlantic City and in Florida, and they had these great waves. So you take the waves and you glide, but then the analogy here is that the waves are all different. Every single wave, different speed, different shape, different angle, but they're all water. We are all different beings. We all look very different here. But we're all one being. We're all one water, if you want to use that, in the sense of oneness or wholeness. And what I really like about this analogy, when I was a kid, I would often go just under the waves. You didn't know they were there. It was complete stillness. That's the complete stillness you experience in meditation, by going under the waves of the mind and just getting to that free being that you are. So let's go back to knower, because this is the key thing here. The knower is something that we meditate on, and I'll talk about meditation in the Hindu sense, or in my understanding, and also what my guru taught in a minute. But let's talk about the knower. It may be a completely new concept to you, or maybe not, but I think almost everybody has an inkling, an understanding, even if they're not consciously aware of it, of the knower as human beings. I know when I first heard of it from Swamiji, I thought, yes, that sounds familiar. I don't know exactly what it means, but I really want to know and practice. And I had another beautiful experience in India regarding this. I was giving a talk on meditation. I love talking in India because Indian audiences are so receptive and loving, but this was in a place called Kanpur. But this wasn't to Indian people, actually. It was to group of young Rotary Club members, 6 members and a leader who was older. And one group was from Canada, my country, of course, and the other was from Argentina. Well, the Argentinian guys didn't speak much English, so the older guy, whose name was Dick, he translated. He did what they call in the UN, I think, simultaneous interpretation. Not quite simultaneous, but I would speak 1 or 2 or 3 sentences, and then he would translate. And I actually do speak Spanish. So I knew that he was translating very well. He really was grasping what I was saying, because I could understand his translations. And the only time he got stuck, surprise, was the first time I used the word knower. And I remember going, scratching his head and said, I don't understand what you're saying. So I explained basically, as I did now, to you, that which knows the thoughts in the mind, which is free from them, which is free from birth and death, and it can only be known through meditation and so on. And as I was talking, it was like a light bulb went off. I'll never forget the look on his face. He went, ah, I've got it. In Spanish, el que sabe, the one who knows. But what was beautiful was what he said next. Glenn, I've known about the knower my whole life, but I've never heard it expressed in words before. And it was such a beautiful moment, but he had that inkling. He knew it. He recognized it when I said to him. And it just a little bit about him, because to me it's a very touching story. He was a very successful businessman in Argentina, but he had a very bad heart. So he was with his doctor one day, and he said, listen, I'd like to really keep working. Is that okay? And this doctor said, sure, keep working if you want to be the youngest man in the cemetery. So clearly he decided to leave things and come to India and change his life. And then we had that session. Eventually, actually, we became very good friends and remained so until he died a few years later. So the knower is what we meditate on. Now, I've talked about meditation, the lofty goal of knowing the self and being free from pain and suffering, of course. But meditation is just a daily practice, which improves your life day to day. Oh, Bandy, I wish I could quote it. I quoted something you said in my little blurb, something like, these practices are not devoid of the world. Do you remember what your quote was? Can you tell me?
Basically, that it's not to try to escape from the world, but to
That's right. Thank
immerse
you.
more closely and to be more effective as well as happier.
Beautiful. Thanks a lot. So it aids daily life. Your life gets better. I don't know how many of you meditate or don't, but
We're learning.
great. There's a website called EOC, the EOC Institute. I don't know what it stands for, and they give 141 advantages to meditation. If you want to look it up, they're spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional. So what I'm saying is meditation just becomes part. It has been for 40, 50 years of my life every day. Your life improves, your relationship, whatever. These are all personal things. Whatever you're gaining from meditation. But the only thing is that it has to be done, of course. If you don't meditate, you won't get its advantages. No. So why don't we do some meditation now? In Hinduism, there's two elements of the path towards realization: knowing the self, knowing the knower. Dhyan and Gyan. Nice rhyming couplet. Dhyan and Gyan. Gyan means knowledge. What we're doing now, we're talking about meditation. We're talking about the highest. Reading the scriptures or reading a book about it, thinking about it, going to meetings, or when you meet with your guru, it's called satsang, the company of the truth. A very important part is talking with friends, like I have with Robert forever, and with you, Bandy, for the last year or so, about meditation. That's all building your gyan, but ultimately, the human mind cannot grasp the ultimate. It just isn't meant to. The human mind only knows three states of consciousness: sleeping, dreaming, and waking state. When you dream, it seems very real, doesn't it? Like when I dream, whatever's happening is very real. But when I wake up, I know that whatever happened in that dream was not real. It was imagination. I mean, say I dream that I won $1 million in the lottery. When I wake up, I don't check my bank accounts because I know it wasn't true. But going beyond those three states is the fourth state called Turiya, and that's called waking up from the waking state, the Jagrat state. Jagat, Swapna, Sushupti are the three terms, and the fourth state is called Turiya. And the Turiya state is a state of absolute freedom. When you wake up from the waking state, so to speak, you come to know that even the waking state is just as imaginary as the dream state. And so let's just get to meditation here. We'll practice for 5 minutes, and then I'll turn it back to you. But for meditating, I'm going to offer the meditation I do is called mantra meditation. I'll just tell you what my mantra is. It's a little hard to remember anyway, but it's Sanskrit, not Sanskrit, real Sanskrit. It's close, called Amaram Hum Madhuram Hum. And it soothes the mind and brings it to a settled state. The term Amaram Hum Madhuram Hum, it means I am immortal, I am blissful. Everybody would like to be immortal and blissful. And that's the mantra I use. So when we close our eyes in meditation, there's nothing forced. There's no bias. It's completely scientific because all you do is watch as the watcher, know as the knower. And close your eyes and just be easy and just watch. And if something happens, like say a dog starts barking, that can't disturb your meditation because you are the free knower, hearing it but not disturbed by it. And one of the greatest misconceptions about meditation is that it means stopping your thoughts. First of all, that's completely impossible. And secondly, it's got nothing to do with meditation. You just watch. If the thoughts come, you're meditating. If thoughts stop, you're meditating. So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, but freedom, which is a state that comes from meditation, never begins with bondage. So I'm certainly going to say, if you don't feel like meditating, please feel free to do whatever you like. But I'm going to ask those of you who would like to close your eyes now. And I will speak for a couple of minutes, just giving the technique of meditation as I practice it. And then we'll be quiet for 5 minutes, and then we'll come out of meditation. So meditation on the knower means closing your eyes and simply watching. Very simple, nothing complicated. Just watch and know that you are a living, aware, free being. That is who you are. You are the knower. You are watching your thoughts if they come, and you're free of them. You are watching the no thought state if that comes, and you are still the free being. Just keep watching. And when you're watching, if you want to have your thoughts go in a good direction, rather than randomly, that's why I recommend mantra. Mantra means release the mind from its bondage. Mantra, mind release. So I would recommend Amaram Hum Madhuram Hum. If that's too long to remember, just Amaram. Amaram, it means immortal. And when your mind slips into another thought and you want to come back, just gently, no coercion, no forcing, come back to Amaram. Amaram Hum Madhuram Hum. I'm going to repeat that 3 times, and then I'll be quiet for 5 minutes. Amaram Hum Madhuram Hum. Amaram Hum Madhuram Hum. Amaram Hum Madhuram Hum.